Hey, beautiful people, welcome back. There's a rhetoric about bond and no bond. People saying they want to do audit on the case. When people speak of doing audits on the case, what they're looking for is the monetary value on the case. This thing called bond is one of the things attached to the monetary value against the case. On the back end, sure, they fill out the GSA bonds, which we go over the details on YouTube. And that bond is the initial appearance itself, whereby when people start to do consequent notice of special appearance, you can't do this to me because I'm not under your jurisdiction. The initial appearance that was done was when that bond was signed, either in your name or when you voluntarily signed it to be released. That was a notice of appearance. So when people go on about doing a audit in the case and saying, well, I'm going to get the monetary value of what they did against my name and this and that, what they fail to realize is how bonds work. This is a demise that people put themselves in arbitrarily in serious cases where they should be focusing on knowing the dynamics of how things work, knowing the standard element tests of everything involved, and then working with it rather than trying to do something else that someone has told them will work. But truly, the one who told them and they themselves listened to it do not know how it works. Firstly, you must know how bonds work on the bond market. Secondly, this thing called monetary value of any given case, you don't have any interest to it, and you cannot hold anyone liable through taxes and all that stuff unless you can prove that you have interest in that bond. Do you have a trust? Have you done a non-UCC? Not a regular UCC one, but a non-UCC first, because that is the lien itself. The subsequent UCC one is just a notice of it, which is done at a state level. And if and when you have a trust and a non-UCC, have you introduced it through public offerings? Because let's just say you do somehow do some audit, and there are different types of audits that can be done in a bond of a case. And you do somehow find the information. All you're going to see is the name of the one buying and selling. If your name or your trust is not the one buying or selling, but the medium, which is the enslaved, which is being sold like the slave through certificates and other derivatives of bond issued, aka appearance bonds in any given case, which was the first notice of appearance, way before that special appearance people put it. If you are not the buyer or the seller, then you don't have monetary interest in it. You don't have the right to go report someone that they've done this through tax and whatnot. If you're just a presumption of the slave being sold, then the slave have no say so in anything, because the slave itself is the product. Now, if you want to deal with issues of misconstruing and misrepresenting you, then you would still have to know the language of the law involved in misrepresentation, defamation, fraud, and the different types and elements to which you can vindicate yourself. Rather than saying that you're going to prove the monetary value through audit, if you know the right audit to do. And once you do that, the information that's going to be provided to you is not going to give you any information that you're going to be able to use and say, okay, someone is doing something bad. Unless you are either the buyer or the seller of that bond through monetary interest, there's nothing that can be done with the bond. That's a reality that most people are facing. Most people have heard and have been sold this thing about reporting into the IRS, putting 1099 OIDs in the case. But who has actually done it successfully? None. And this is not to discourage anyone, but more so to bring you awareness to the fact that regarding bonds, etc., you have to know how the bond market works. And even if you don't know how it works, how does the foundational principle of interest and property works? Most people, that is void in their minds. But let me show you an example. An appearance bond is the first type of appearance that's done, whether it's publicly put in a docket or not. Now comes petition of Midwest Bonding LLC. This is the bonding company themselves. Pursuant to Minnesota rule blah blah blah, as and for its petition hereby moves to court for the following, meaning they are interested party. No one can come in any given case and start to move a case unless they're an interested party. Petitioner Midwest Bonding LLC hereby moves to court for an order extending the due date for 90 days to August 15, 2022. The previously forfeited bail bond 2021EE003805. The video regarding avisendum in the National Bank Act. The way that you approach them when it comes to bond matter is the issuance of it, whether it's lawful or not. That's how you approach them, rather than trying to do some speculative stuff about some tax forms that's just going to be ignored, and it's going to let them know as a red flag or a signal that you don't know what you're talking about and you're not ready and you cannot hold them liable When they see you do that, they know, oh, you can't hold us liable. You just found the stuff that we've put out there as a distraction for people. We got you. You're meat for us. This bond number is that which has monetary value that has been sold on the market. Who's the one issuing it? Who's the one circulating it? That's the issue that you need to deal with based on the National Banking Act. That's where the solution is that a lot of people are missing and don't care to know. So now them as an interested third party who has a right of claim to the bond itself can move the court to perform based on it because that's all they're involved and interested in. Posted on April 25th, 2021 and bail bond number so-and-so in the amount of $50,000. Posted on March 17, 2020 and ordered forfeited in November 18, 2021. In other words, if you don't show up and perform and speak up that something is wrong, you will forfeit it, meaning it goes to them. So now if you want to say you don't want to forfeit it, to forfeit something is to say that you've given up, you've conceded, you've raised the red flag. You're in default. The word forfeit is the same thing as a default. Believe it or not, this is what a notice of default judgment looks like. All these people trying to do administrative process, trying to bind people, this and that. It's simple, far simpler. It's specific to the subject matter. So now they're saying you failed to perform. Why? Because you're running around not wanting to deal with the dynamics of the case and then actually attack the validity of the bond itself and its origin. Because if you do an avisandum and attack the origin of it, it automatically annuls the notice of appearance that makes the presumption that you've already appeared, regardless of whether you do a subsequent special appearance saying that they don't have jurisdiction or not. Rewind that and listen to that again. So now when you deal with all that, you're dealing with the core of it, and there's no presumption that you forfeited it. And by virtue of that, you've preserved your interest in it in the future for whatever it is you want to do, if you've yet to create a trust and have the basic stuff ready. This petition and motion are based on the entire file, record, and proceeding hearing and an attached affidavit. In other words, the one who was bonded to appear based on appearance bond, meaning, okay, you're gonna put money up for me and front a money up for me. That's what a bond is, so that I can get released. But my condition and consideration for you fronting up money for me, you being Midwest Bonding LLC, is that I will show up. But if I don't show up, I will forfeit it, and you get to take your money back and all the interest in the bond market. This is what's going on. And since that contract is tied to a court case where the presumption of liability is now on the man who's bonded by form of appearance, what they're now doing is they're bringing a motion to say, okay, we're about to cash out now because this man did not appear. It's that simple. You have to know how National Currency Act work if you want to start talking about bond issue. All those tax forms you're trying to fill out, it's going to do nothing for you. It would only let them know that you're not really sure about what's going on. Be realistic. Start from the basics of what really occurs and the dynamics of how bonds really work. Don't listen to it because you want to conform it or what you're hearing to what you feel is that you're supposed to do. If you're only listening to what someone is telling you just to conform it to what you feel, you're still lying to yourself. Whatever it is you say you want to be free about, you're not going to be free because you're not listening to the substantive truth. You're just listening to some stuff that temporarily make you feel good, that temporarily make you feel like you're doing something special. Most importantly, here is the highest reality of the reason why people go on about tax forms, reporting this and that. It's because people are afraid. People are afraid to stand up and speak up. People are full of fear. People don't trust in themselves and their competency and their ability to stand up and vindicate themselves. They say they have rights. They don't know how to enforce their rights. They are afraid of enforcing their rights. They are afraid of that acting judge up there. And because of that, they want to use some other methods that doesn't even apply. And if you do want to use those other methods, then at least know how it works and the basics as to why that bond even exists in the first place and how it affects you, rather than doing something contrary, because that bond most people are bonded to in a case is for the purpose of appearance and they've bound you. So what you're supposed to be doing is attacking the validity of that quote bond to appear, whereby if you don't show up, you are presumed to forfeit it and then they cash out and make money nonetheless. Attack that aspect rather than trying to put in some 1099 OID 1096 form. That's not how that is done. Or trying to fill out some form to go snitch on them. And even if you do, the purpose and the significance of why you're snitching on them is not what you think it is, because you don't have interest in that thing, because you cannot show it. If it's a civil case, it's called preponderance of evidence. If it's a criminal case, you cannot show that you have interest in that bond beyond reasonable doubt. And it cannot be claimed convincing. Be realistic with yourself. because you are afraid to speak up about your rights, because you are discouraged, you're doing something else that's actually going to make it worse. And they're going to fit you in a box that they want you to fit in, which is the whole sovereign citizen box, which is the whole box of, we're going to hold you in contempt, or we're going to do a Faretta hearing, or we're going to put an attorney on you, or we're going to do a psychological evaluation on you. But realistic about the dynamics of what's going on and deal with it from a substantive level. Is there a solution related to this whole bond issue? Yes, there is. And we've went over it in this same video, whether you realize it or not. Be realistic with yourself. Until next time, take care. Best of luck.
Hey, beautiful people. I'm inviting you to come to my Patreon page to speak about everything we don't speak of here on YouTube. On the Patreon page, we speak of establishing privacy in many different means, how to hold tortfeasors liable, the different types of discharge, and the steps to actually do it. Now I'll be showing my own proof of the success, the intricacies involved in why and how it works, and the things no one else would tell you because they've never discharged themselves. The intricacies of settlements, suing people, and many other basic things like other tools that you can use privately, things of spiritual nature, because this goes beyond what you observe with your five senses. And if you just want to limit your remedy to just what you observe with your five senses, think again, because the other side is not playing in that realm. It's not an even playing field. Other things like study tools are shown things regarding trust and asset protection and how to lay your trust properly the way people seek it, and the advantage of how to do it, banking, the functionality of how they function, and the validity of it that a lot of people misuse or are misled by, where they think, oh, these other guys are bad, so now I have to just go into argument mode. No, you don't always have to argue. The law is perfected for your benefit if you're competent about it. Many things regarding child support, different examples of settlement checks, and the videos on it, the different aspect of how you can broaden your mind internationally beyond the little chicken scraps that people are picking up when it comes to passport and things of that nature, how banking work, how property protection work, the details of copyright, tort, privacy, different types of trust, the intricacies, and exactly why and how they are done, the intricacies that people from other parts of the world know about trust that you don't. Just because you read something on social media and whatnot doesn't mean you really got it. The intricacies of how to use certain jurisdiction and the stuff everyone speaks of. More in child support, more in trust, more in court, more in spiritual nature of things, etc., etc. The fact that tax avoidance is different from tax evasion. The importance of things in commerce and how to actually function in commerce. How to actually really do things as a natural person is beyond speculation. But let me give you this caveat. If you're looking for a cookie cutter or some quick fast food way, this is not it for you, either here on YouTube or on Patreon. But if you're serious about your education and the function and application of it, rather than a mere accumulation of information, then come on over on Patreon. There are things we speak about over there that are universally and exponentially beneficial compared to that of the ones we speak of on YouTube. And more importantly, the practicality and the actual use of it. Take care. Best of luck.